My pleasure. Thanks for coming. Hello everyone. Welcome to this talk about how test and development environments in Azure are finally fast, cheap, and somewhat easy. There's always a caveat, right? You can pick two, but you can't get all three, right? That's the joke here in the title. But this talk is hopefully going to be interesting for you. We're going to cover basically what is this and why would I care? Why would I want this? I'm going to dive into a little bit of tooling, but I have two tools. So I warn you that we're not going to go into exactly the details of how you use the tools. I'm going to try to inspire rather. So it's going to be slightly higher up. There's not much more time to cover everything. And then where do we go from here? What do we do when we have these tools, or what's the next step? And I'm going to start with you people. You look brilliant. Thank you for coming to my talk again. Mads is doing a talk right now, but you feel that this is the place to be. I appreciate that a lot. So we're going to start by doing some light stretching. And that's going to be by show of hands. So the topic is of course, are you automating your cloud environments? I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. Really simple ones, don't worry. So first question, by show of hands. We are deploying infrastructure using IAC, like infrastructure as code. We're using templates to deploy our infrastructure, not just portal, click, click, deploy things. A bunch of people are doing that, great. Second question, I have to remember not to hard click, because that's backwards. I have to click, and that's forward. All right. We are using CI/CD to deploy our infrastructure. Some automation pipeline is deploying it. A lot of people are doing this. That's good, really good stuff. You are doing the right things. And if you're not doing that yet, or you're thinking about it and you're not doing it yet, you can't raise your hand. That's okay. That's why you are here. Final question. We tear down infrastructure from the cloud using automation. There's actually people doing that. I love you guys. That's great. None of my customers do that. And that's why I came up with this talk. Okay? That's what this talk is about. So, who am I then? I'm Magnus. Hey, you're all here. Welcome. I'm Magnus, and I've been an Azure MVP since the beginning of the cloud, since the very, very, very start. It was called Windows Azure, right? Who else was there when it was Windows Azure? Yeah, you were doing Windows Azure. It was cool. I'm also what Microsoft like to call a regional director, which is a funky title, because I want to stress that I work for my own company, right? I run my own consultancy, but I don't work for Microsoft. I don't have a region, and I don't direct anything. But it's a funky title that says that I hang out with Microsoft a lot and talk to them. And I was actually trying to solve, and I failed to fix my last demo today. I was chatting or talking, at least emailing, with the team who are building the service that I'm talking about. There is some trial stuff that I'm going to show you. So maybe you can't take it and run home to your company and apply it right now, because it's not all in production and so forth. But the principle of this still applies. So that's the kind of things that I do and like to do. And I also love to do community events. I'm a huge community fan, and I was one of the people who were starting up the thing called Global Azure. Have you ever heard of Global Azure? No one? Few, yes. So the few in the room have heard of it. It's an annual event that is simply every user group on the planet that has to do with anything that likes Azure runs an event on that day, and we figure out some sponsors and some swag and some things, and that's what that is about. And look, right? There are a few. It's cool. And that's great. So I love that. I also have this little show. It's a tiny one. This is Scott Hunter. That's Scott Hanselman's boss that I have interviewed on my show. And I'm going to do one of my shows to interview Mads just in a few hours. I've had great people on my show, but it's bite-sized. The format is like 20-minute conversations about a specific topic. So it's targeted to to leadership positions in cloud projects, that I can get a glimpse or an understanding about something rather than, oh, here's a demo with bits and bytes and details for an hour and a half. I love those shows too, but this is not that. Anyway, so I like to do these kinds of things, so you know a little bit about me. So let's get going. So what are these dev test environments that I'm talking about in the cloud? And why should I care? This is why you should care. This is a report from a company called Flexera, they asked the large cloud consumers who have a large cloud bill to self-estimate. How much do you estimate, by your own, just estimation, how much is waste of what you do with the cloud? They came up with a third, or almost a third. Just burning money on the ground, right? Right? Just looks like this. So I was working with this customer. This was the CTO of a company that I worked with a while ago. And we weren't the best of friends because there was a production issue. And he felt strongly that we have to turn off the auto scaling when we were debugging or trying to pinpoint what happened, what is happening, what is going on in our production environment. I was like, I think that is a bad idea. Then it's only going to be for a little while, right? So 5 months later, the Azure Enterprise Agreement, which was for 12 months, ran out. So they had something like $150,000 or whatever. Like it was a pretty sizable, right? And it was going to last them 12 months, and it ran out in 7 because they didn't have any control over their testing environments. They were just like testing things and trying to pinpoint the problem in production, and they were hemorrhaging, right? And I'm like, at that point, that's me. I'm like, yo, wait a minute, I told you. But I'm not always right. This time I was very right because, I was trying to generate a cool picture, by the way. This is a weird picture that got generated for me. I said, like, steampunk IT department with computers. And why are they sitting behind the computer screen? Like, something's wrong with this picture. But anyways, it's a decent picture. And you're sitting there working in the development department, and suddenly you hear this click, clack, click, clack, click, clack coming down the hallway outside. What the hell is this sound? Who is wearing dress fancy shoes in the development department? Like, there's never anyone down here wearing click, clack shoes. There's all sneakers, right? So, but it's the CTO. And he comes walking down the corridor, and he has a banana apparently, but he also has a stack of printed Azure consumption bills. And he's kicking in the door, and he's like, I'm mad as hell, and I'm not going to take it anymore. I've seen this happen. Like, he almost looked exactly like this. It is not a pretty sight. You have overconsumed, probably, or the bill is very high, and now someone is like, I can't take this anymore. So you want to avoid this situation, and that is why we are here today, to figure out what we do to not burn a third of our Azure consumption on the ground. Okay, so if you're an application developer, your thing is to develop applications, code, services to service the company's need and their business outcomes and so on and so forth. You shouldn't have to know how to set up infrastructure in the cloud that is secure, that is compliant, that is cost optimized. There was a great talk the other day by the gentleman sitting over there on his laptop. He's probably in a Teams call right now. I'm kidding. You're taking notes? Sure. Wow. Okay, that's impressive. Thank you. Thank you for that. No, but really, you made this exact point, right? That it's about security and compliance and these things, and application developers don't know how to do that. Right? They're application developers. They shouldn't have to know these things. And so automation is hard. ClickOps, it works. Click in the portal, deploy VM, right? It works, yay. And testers is another category of people. There are very technical testers who are supposed to be technical testers. There are also less technical testers who are supposed to be less technical, and they're supposed to test things that a more representative user would test and not be so technical, right? That's the intent. That's why we have them. But they are dependent on other people to set up their work, to do their thing, right? So they have to wait for the cloud infra team to set up the infrastructure that is going to host the application that they're going to test. Then they have to wait for the app developers to spend time to build and deploy. That's pipeline, so maybe not so much time, but at least that has to happen. And then the DBA probably needs to go in there and restore the data to a known state. And now the testing environment works. Oh, by the way, it's Friday afternoon, time for barbecue on the beach, and all these things. But don't touch the test environments because it's all set up now perfectly the way it's supposed to be. Where the testers are going to start on Monday doing the testing, right? On Monday, unfortunately, Dave, the main tester, he's sick, right? So it's okay. We'll push back. It's okay. We'll start the testing on Wednesday. Now we have almost a week's worth of Azure spend on an environment which is deployed, ready to go. No one is using it. Burning money on the ground. So that's why we're here, right? So I wanted to make sure that I get that across, because I know from talking to a lot of people that it might be challenging to explain to the bean counters, Excel people, why are we investing in that automation thing? That's not a business feature. That's not a feature our end users are going to care about. Why are we investing time and energy in that? Well, because of the things that I have talked about here right now, right? And the red thread here is time. Forget about only the infrastructure cost of the infrastructure running in Azure that you are not using. Also, the time of these people who need to stop doing the business thing that they were doing, stop developing, and help the testing environment is not working. We need to call in, Magnus and John and Sarah and whomever from the application developer team to help us figure out why the testing environment is not working. That's business right there. Business lost, right? No progress because we got to fix the test environment. So that sucks. So what is it that we need to focus on? What should we be focusing on? What should we do? We should focus on having a team that can set up this environment. Do you know about landing zones? Everything's got to be a landing zone these days. So landing zone in cloud terms in Azure is essentially a glorified subscription with some policies and things and access control and stuff around it. Maybe if we're lucky, they have a budget set up, an Azure budget or something like that. So you need to have a space for development and testing and other activities to happen. And that space also needs to be secure and compliant and all of that stuff, because that is not going to be an afterthought. If you're letting people who don't know how to set up Azure resources set that up, they don't have the experience to do it, they're going to set it up and it's going to work, and then they're going to be like, yeah, you did it, well done, it's working. And then a few months later, some customer comes along and says, are you ISO and so compliant? And it's important for us. We can't buy your service unless you are compliant. And then at that point, compliancy becomes a factor that is interesting to the business, right? We're going to get this business if we are compliant. Holy shit. We have to go and check what's the policy status. Where do you click for policies? Where is that? Oh, there it is. Whoa. What's all this red stuff? What's all this red nonsense, right? Holy crap. So I need to apply these policies, and all of a sudden everything is wrong. So now I have to fix all the infrastructure issues that are not compliant. And by the way, after that, we have to test it again. And so it's not going to be an afterthought. You would ideally want to have this set up in such a way that you are ensuring that you are secure and compliant from the beginning. Always. Cool. Managing environment cost. Monitoring, that requires active work. So you have your infrastructure set up, you have your application in production, you have your users, they're using it, and you're building a great service. Everybody loves it. And then the worst thing that can happen happens to your application. What's the worst thing that can happen to your application? Anyone? You delete it. Yeah, that's bad. That's really bad. Hopefully you can restore it. But anyone? Worst? Downtime. No. Success. Right? You're a huge success all of a sudden, and your infrastructure was never dialed to that. Like it doesn't auto scale. It doesn't cost optimize, forget about it, right? So we have to turn up to 10 instances of huge machines because the code is also not optimized. And so, to meet this customer demand, we have to now spend so much money, right? Success is the worst because, we never factored that huge success. So, I'm kind of making jokes, but I think you get the picture. So what do? Let's move over to talk about things that can help in this scenario. And there are some tools. The idea is to have your infrastructure as code, as templates, as source code in a way that makes that easy to deploy to Azure, right? With automation, and many here were doing that already. But the kicker is easy to tear down from Azure as well. And a lot of us are, there were a few that claim that you're doing that. And that's great. That's really good. I did this talk once in Amsterdam. And it was a lot of people, yay, we use infrastructure as code. And then I was the last question, I was no one, right? So that's the target. This is what we are doing. And are there any tools, any things that can help us? So am I suggesting that Microsoft is helping customers use less of their services? That sounds like self-inflicting wounds and what's this self-damaging behavior we're talking about here? Why would anyone do that? Why would anyone do this? Why would Microsoft create tools that help their customers use less of their service? Any ideas? I have a couple of softies over there, at least one. Why? Because, because while the cloud is infinite for us, mere users, it's not infinite for Microsoft. There are bottlenecks. There are issues with having enough hardware there in certain stamps and certain types of hardware, and you can run out, right? So Microsoft would rather have a larger number of more happy customers consuming a little less than a small number of high-consuming customers that are not happy. Cost optimization is competitive edge, right? So it matters. It matters. So one of these tools that Microsoft has built, has released, is live in production and so forth. You can use it. It's AZD, the Azure Developer CLI. Okay. So most people know about AZ, right? That's the Azure CLI, and then you add the golden D, and then you get AZD, right? The Developer CLI. And that thing, if you read the text, what is it? It's an open source tool that accelerates the time it takes for you to get your application from local development environment to Azure. Cool. We can deploy with it or set up infrastructure. AZD provides best practice developer-friendly commands that let you provision and tear down resources with a simple one-liner. So you can remove shit from Azure with this. Oh, first swear word. Cool, cool. It was the first one, right? I think so. So let's look at that. Again, it's not going to be deep dive or anything, but at least let's look at it. So I have set up, do I need to make this in a different theme? Is dark theme okay? It's okay? Good, good, good. And it's very small resolution though. Let's see. Can you still see that? Okay. Hide my taskbar. Yeah, no, I'm not doing that. So good. So what I can do this. Do you guys know this one? Control K and then Z. You get to Zen mode in Visual Studio Code. I love Zen mode. It's better, right? All right, see if Zen mode helps us. So let me close that thing because it's not relevant right now. I wanted to have a different file open. Sorry, should have had this file open. So I have my little console window down here as well. When I do AZD on my command line, it comes back and tells me that I have an out-of-date version, and that's on purpose because I was told that there was some kind of regression thing, and I was advised to go back to this version for now. Anyway, not the point. AZD is a command line tool installed here on my machine, with which I can list a set of existing or predefined or already pre-existing templates. And all of these templates are things that I can just deploy to Azure. They include everything, as in the infrastructure, the way to deploy the infrastructure. They include the application source code, and many of them actually they build in a container on your device, so you don't actually have to have any prerequisites installed except Docker, Git, and AZD. All right, so you can take a look at any of these and see if they inspire you to copy one of them and use it as your own, or you can take it and tweak it and make it yours. But it's a really good place to start and look around and deploy things and try out to deploy things with this to Azure, so you can see, okay, I deployed this thing and it did some stuff, and that's kind of cool. So what I have also set up here is a folder, and I'm using Git here. I'm using Git here so that we'll be able to see the difference between this folder and then when I have done a command that's called azd init to set it up in such a way that I can. This is a very contrived example, okay, so it's going to work. It has some tests just for show. It is containerized in such a way that I can then, like I said, I can compile this application's source code in the container on my local machine running in Docker, right? And then I can deploy the thing to the cloud after it's been compiled. So it's already prepared very, very, here's what I did earlier. It has source code, so it has an API and a web application. So, and there are two different kinds of applications, and we'll see what happens when I run this command azd init. Okay, so I'm running that command now. It says, would you like to use the code in the current directory? And I'm currently, as you can see here, I'm in this demo1 directory, right? So it says, would you like to use the code right here? And I'm like, okay, yeah, let's do that. And it scans the directory and it says, okay, I see that you have something called a .NET. There's a .NET application in the path /source/API. There's a React application in /source/web. Would you like to use those? I'm like, okay, I'm going to use those. Confirm. And it needs a port. Let's just give it something. Environment name. Sydney. All right. So, and then it generated some things for me. AZD set things up for me now. And with the help of Git, we can see what just happened. So it gave me a next steps markdown file that you can read about, like, okay, what just happened? What am I going to do now? And there's a little helpful hints and then references to documentation. This is the magic file, the markdown file here, or sorry, the YAML file here. So honestly, quick question. Can anyone name a technology that we are using currently, that we need to be using, that sucks more than YAML? Anyone? Exactly, there's silence. All right, thank you for that. Thank you for confirming me. So we have this describes what we just did. It says that there's an API project here, it's .NET, and there's this other thing that's going to build in it's a Docker file. It's going to, yeah, whatever. So it tells us what we have. It gave us a big infra folder with some bicep deployment stuff. So it supports bicep right now. AZD supports bicep, and Microsoft is saying we're going to support Terraform and so forth. Yeah, okay, cool. I don't care which like, use Pulumi, use whatever you like. That doesn't matter. The answer to the question, are you deploying, like which infrastructure as code, whatever system, language, or whatever are you using? The answer is either one. Any one of them, so long as there is one, right? It doesn't matter which one you use. And eventually AZD will support Terraform. Microsoft will definitely support the things that a lot of customers are using. You don't have to love it. If you ask me for my favorite one, it's going to be Bicep. I love Bicep. So it gives us a Bicep file, apparently, and some modules in here as well. Or sorry, the one app bicep and one web bicep to deploy my infrastructure for the things that I had. So that was generated for me, and I'd see here that I'm going to deploy some container apps apparently, and some more things. So this is again a very contrived example because this just works. It might be the case that yours won't work as well, but you can build something. You can set up something manually like that will look like this and work for your setup for whatever you need. Most of the things will be functional, but there are some limitations, and I'll get to those. Okay, cool. So this is what we got. We also got this .azure folder with some config stuff, the environment name, and the things that I said that I got there. So that is what happens when you say init on this thing. The next thing to do with this, go back to my demo file, is actually, now the thing that I mentioned. First, I'm going to jump to the browser, and I'm going to show you supported languages and environments. This is what is currently supported by the Azure Developer CLI. So it supports a lot of different tooling, Visual Studio Code, Visual Studio, so forth. You can use it with a lot of different options, code spaces and things. Here are the supported compute services. So these things work with and this is the current Microsoft documentation, so I hope it's accurate. It's their own stuff. These things work, and it supports a bunch of languages. So there needs to be more support here, of course, and that is of course coming so long as people like to use this product and it stays around, and I hope it does because it's cool. So then there's this command. There are several things you now want to do. You want to provision the infrastructure in the cloud. You want to compile the source code, and then you want to deploy the application. And that's like separate commands in AZD, except that there is a one-liner for it. You can say AZD up, and it's going to do all of those things in sequence. Okay? So the super command is AZD up, and everything comes up to the cloud. And I can run that right now, except it's not going to be very fun because we're going to have to sit here for like 10 minutes and watch this thing do all this magic and deploy everything. So rather than us do that, trust me, it works, right? I made screenshots of the same things, okay? So it goes and it says, oh, I'm gonna package up everything, and I'm gonna package in this API service, and I'm gonna use Docker here, and I'm gonna do a bunch of things in Docker, packaging the service, blah, 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 doing things with that. I'm gonna create now Azure infrastructure in the cloud, key vaults, log analytics, application, container registry, yay. Put all the things in the cloud. This is creating infrastructure in the cloud, AZD up, and it's doing that for me, okay? I don't have to know how to create resource groups in the cloud or deploy applications to set up infrastructure in the cloud. That's already done, okay? And then it's deploying my service API and my web API and the things over to it says 11 minutes here in this example, right? So we don't want to sit here and wait for those 11 minutes. Just squish that down to very few seconds. If I say AZD environment list, end of the list, it says, hey, you have an application in the cloud. I don't know why it's called the port name, but it is. So, and then when I'm done, the most magical thing in the world is to not say AZD up, but say the reverse, say AZD down. And it removes everything from the cloud and it's gone. And the cost of the infrastructure is gone. That is the important learning. We're done now, we can leave, right? So would you like to continue and delete all these things? So the principle with AZD is to keep the infrastructure as code together with the source code in the same repo, and then enable this auto deployment and the important auto tear down. Okay? That's what we want to do. So anyone who has Git, Docker, and AZD installed on their machine can do this. It is theoretically possible to install these things on a tester's device, right? And have the tester, you can give them a bat script they can double click on, right? In case they're not technical people, right? In case they don't care about what Git is and how that works and how do I know which branch and no. You can give them a button to click on. So when you can even automate it, like this thing starts before you come to work at 6:30. This kicks off, and when you come to work at 9:30, I don't know. Then it's there, it's working already for you, and we can remove them after a day's work, right? But you can automate this entirely, and it's possible for people to do. What's really another key thing here is about your company's, your organization's best practices. Are we following good practices? Well, one really good practice is to ensure that the right people have access to the right environments so that not, Dave, it's always Dave, bloody Dave, goes into the environment and changes something because you thought it was a good idea at the time and then forgets to tell anyone. And now we're chasing ghosts around the internet because the thing that works in production is not working in test or vice versa, right? With this, all the environments always come from a known state because you set them up when you need them from an automation. So we're removing Dave from the equation. We don't want to have him in there. So no more ClickOps errors. That's good. So now we can all AZD up and we can all AZD down. So I guess I got 99 problems, but deployment ain't one. What is the next problem? So AZD is kind of opinionated. That's one problem that I see. AZD is kind of heavily leaning towards containers and so on and so forth. And not everything has to be in a container. God, I didn't swear. But some things have to be in a container, and that's cool. But really, if you listen to the talks, the community meetup conversations from this team, they say that this is an opinionated thing. Okay, cool. That's a drawback in my book. But let me ask you a question. Who is responsible that your application is secure, compliant, and optimal? Who is responsible for this? Is it Dave? Us? All of us? Was you said, yeah. Us, as in the whole company, everyone? Developers? Oh, developers are responsible. Yeah, developers. Could be developers that are responsible. So the thing about this space is that there's this theory that if you build it, you run it. Us, the developers, right? We built it, we now run it. It's our responsibility now that this thing is up and running, and the boss is. Somebody calls, the angry customers are calling on a Saturday afternoon, and the boss is ringing you, and you're like having a barbecue, and it's like you have to fix it. It's your problem. So the thing about you build it, you run it is that. This assumes you have a team that is, the thing about the 10x developer, the one developer who is 10 times as valuable as any other. That's bullshit. Doesn't exist. It's a unicorn. But apart from that, you can have a 10x team maybe. Like these people, we have, wow, the tester and the graphics designer and the developers, rock stars. My God, you can have that. You can have such a team. It's possible, but this does not scale. It doesn't scale. This is just us. So here's a tip. Whenever a presenter gives you a long list of very small text, it's not for you to read or recognize or remember. I'm not going to quiz you at the end. It's for you to say, oh my God, there's so much. There's so much that we need to know about being a modern cloud developer. I need to deploy. I purposefully made this fussy. Don't even try to read it. It's like how do we log the right data in the cloud? How do we make sure the application is appropriately scaled up? How do we know, none of these things have anything to do with building, with programming, with coding an application, right? Building features. This is fuss, right? So the thing about that is that most companies do not have enough of these competencies, okay? You're an enterprise. I work with public sector customers right now. And they haven't been able, because they haven't been allowed by the compliancy, governance, and these things to use the cloud. So they haven't used the cloud. It's weird. I've used the cloud for more than a decade and supposedly been an expert on this for that duration. That's for someone else to judge. But these people, strong technicians, right? They've been in this industry 35 years, right? I know my shit. I can develop. I know how to set up infrastructure. They're good people. But they do not have the cloud mileage. So they will make it less optimal, not secure, not compliant, if they ever make it at all, right? Because there are not enough of these people. This is a problem. So for that purpose, there's another tool which is called Azure Deployment Environments. ADE. I don't know if that's an acronym that they actually use. I'm trying to use it. And I always, half of the time I say Azure Development Environments. I'm probably going to get it wrong because I can't even which one is it? It's Deployment Environments. Okay, what is this? So developers that are using Azure, they should be empowered to gain access to Azure in an appropriate way. They need to have a subscription. There needs to be policies, guardrails around there. There should be a cost budget, preferably, and they should have the appropriate access set up so that it's not the wrong access to the wrong thing, but the right access at the right time. There's just-in-time access. There's various things that need to be set up. There's a lot of governance here. And what about logging, networking operations, and other shared services that they have to use? Are we using an express route? Yes, my government customer is my public sector customer are using an express route. So that's a central resource that has to be set up and governed, and you have to have access to that. And how do you get access to the network? And blah, 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 blah. None of that has to do with developing an application at all, right? None of that has to do with that. So you also have this notion of environments, of course. You have production environments, test environments, call them what you want, pre-prod, staging, I don't care what you call them, but there's this notion of environments. And then you get something that looks like this. So this is the Azure deployment environments. That means dev center. And so you can create in the cloud a dev center, okay? Or there it is, the dev center. The dev center can be connected to a catalog of your deployment templates. And you put that in a subscription and so on and so forth. And you define environment types. I told you dev, test, and so on. You can define different projects, and you can combine those two into project environment types. And then you can have a person, a development environments user, go in and say, yes, I would like to have one of those environments now, please. Okay? So this is all set up by a different crew who takes care of this thing, right? One crew, one team, who is your set of cloud engineers. Precious resource that knows about cloud and knows about logging and knows about compliance and knows about policies and knows about all the things that a normal developer shouldn't actually have to know. So it's not so much a demo as it is, I'm going to show you this thing, but let's do that anyway. My demo dev center in the cloud, I'm jumping to that in the portal. Let's do full screen because we can. Is it working? Maybe I'm not on the internet here. Yes, I am. Oh, so it's just slow. Cool. All right, so this is a dev center that I have set up. It's a demo dev center. It doesn't do very much, but at least it's there and it shows. So like I said, it has these environments that I have defined, demo, development, production. It has, people can access this and so on and so forth. It has projects. There is a demo project and a demo project foo that I can define. And it also has this, catalog. And this catalog is in this case, it's DevOps. I could have used GitHub, works both. Doesn't matter which one, I don't care which one I use, both are great. And a different customer will use different ones. And some of customers will use both. So the DevOps catalog in this case is running on my own playground tenant thingy. It's just demo stuff in there. So if I jump to, see, we're back in the browser. This is the project, the repo, the project with a repo that I have, and there are some environments and some different kinds of environments in there. And this leads, unfortunately, to a demo where this doesn't work at the end. Sorry. But these are deployments that I can make. I can deploy a function app. I can deploy an empty sandbox. I can deploy a web application. There's things that my end users can select and have deployed for them by selecting them from this known repo of known deployments, known infrastructure setups that are secure, that are compliant, and that have the logging diagnostics configured, and that do have application insights set up and configured, and all these things that they don't need to know about, right? or shouldn't have to know about, or couldn't know about because they've never learned about it yet. So I can clone this thing and look at it also on the local machine, but it doesn't. We don't need to do that. You've seen this. This is what that looks like. It's essentially, this is in fact a copy of the Microsoft one, the public Microsoft one, that I copied and put in here, and I removed most of their templates and just had a few, okay? So you can do that as well. You can set this up as your environment, and then potentially you can start tweaking these to be the ones that you like, that you know are compliant, that works for you in your organization. Okay? Cool. So, and I think I have this in slides as well. Let me go through the slides real quick because we've already showed you this. This is my backup slides right here. Backup slide. So, better together, love. Yeah? We're going to take A and B and put them together and make love. So there is a public preview still, I think, about the combination of Azure deployment environments and the integration together with the Azure Developer CLI. Okay? So for those of you who know Microsoft, this is a known meme about any large company, but this has been used for Microsoft for a long time. That Microsoft isn't actually one company, it's like 200 different companies, and they partially compete with each other, right? This is a joke, of course, but that's what it is. We have two different technologies, ADE, that I like to call it, and AZD, and they are doing the same kind of thing. They're overlapping. There's a lot of overlap here, so why do we need two? Because Microsoft is a large company, they do things. They take a bet on something, and then maybe they backtrack. Who here is old enough to remember Mercurial? Yeah, good memory, guys. So you remember what Microsoft said when this started to become a thing? It was Git or Mercurial. Microsoft said, Mercurial, no, we mean Git. Right? That's exactly what they said. That's exactly what happened. And I'm curious to see if that's going to happen here as well. Is it going to be AZD and ADE, or is all of a sudden going to say just one of them applies? I think both, because there's value here, and so I'm joking around. But in November, just on the premiere day of Ignite, both the program managers, leaders of the respective teams posted. These are public blog posts. Okay, posted these. This is saying we are using Azure Developer CLI and deployment environments, and on the other side of the fence, they're saying Azure optimizes developer experience and enterprise capabilities together with a plus, right? So they coordinated their blog posts on the first day of Ignite on purpose, of course, to say that yes, we love each other, we're working together, everything is beautiful. I hope it's true. So you have two concerns here. You have two teams. You have the developers who want to do developy things, and then you have the platform engineers who need to govern and take care of and fix and manage. And if you're like most organizations, you probably have, like if you're a large organization, you can be a small organization as well. But if you're a large organization, you maybe have many developer teams, but probably fewer of these resources, these people, because you don't have enough people with these skills. And that's the key here, right? But you got to find the balance here. And the balanced picture, this is one of their pictures, looks like this. You have a developer here in the middle. Developer wants to, get my application and code thing into some infrastructure and get that set up in some environment somewhere, and I get my thing deployed, preferably using automation, because that's cool, right? But here you have the platform engineer, and the platform engineer sets up the identity, the subscriptions, the permissions, the secrets, and these things. And whoops, I was not supposed to do that. This is not going well. Sorry. What happened? Oh, I lost my place in the slide. Apologies. I'm going to go back to that. All right, now we're back. There's this catalog of the known templates that you saw. So of course, the different application developer teams can have input on this catalog. This should be a collaborative effort. This should be something that we curate together, because if you have 20 development teams and many of them are using SQL Server, or using, let's say the SQL database service in the cloud, why do 20 different teams need to figure out how to set up an infrastructure deployment template that is compliant with the corporate policies? Why do we have to do this 20 times? You should be doing this one time and have a shared template that you can use across all these teams, right? That's what we should do. Collaboration is hard, but we should do it. And that's the purpose of this model here. All right, so better together. Using them together is not going to work. This is the last demo, which is not working, so I apologize. But I can talk you through it. What you do is you set up, you configure. This is a typical Azure development environment configuration using the public thing. But if you do it the other way, then you set it up to have the platform type dev center. There's documentation for how to do that. So that instead of using the public catalog, you're pointing to your dev center in the cloud. So you have to give access to things. You have to set up that connection from your dev center instance in the cloud to your, either GitHub or DevOps repo where you have your templates. There's a whole setup that you have to do in order to get to that place, but you only do it once, so it's not too bad. It's actually quite quick. Okay, and that demo unfortunately doesn't work. So what it's supposed to do is, instead of when I do template list, it's going to show me the templates from my catalog. I'm so sorry that it's not working right now. And then you can choose to deploy one of those. And when you say, I want to deploy it, and it's I want to have this environment, and you choose from the environments that are available, and you choose the project that you're working on, so that everything then gets tagged with the appropriate tags on all the resources in the cloud. So when the resources are deployed, they are tagged with the appropriate tags, so we know exactly to which team this cost is allocated. All that is supported. All that is there already. So there's a lot of things that do work. But it's this is preview stuff still, but the principle of this still applies. Anyone could actually build this without having this tooling. But now enough mass of customers of Microsoft are saying this is a pain, we need some help with that, and Microsoft are building the tools to help us with this problem, okay? We only actually need one solution for it, but anyone could build that solution, is my point. So we're getting towards the end of this here, but when you do provision something with this setup, you select which project and environment definition type, and these are the things that I choose from my configured setup in my dev center. And then it just deploys the thing to the cloud using exactly my services and my templates that are compliant with our company. Okay? So central governance of environments and templates with Azure Development Environments, compliant, secure, optimized, shared across your company. Plus, you say AZD up to the thing, and you say AZD down. So you use the central governance, central repo of shared templates with known environments and all the things, and security and access, and all the things are set up. All the things that application developers do not need to know. And then they say AZD up, give me one of those. I want that environment. And then they go home and they say, oh, by the way, I forgot, AZD down. Let's go to the bar, right? That's how it works, friends. And so the problem with compliance and policy is that the only constant is change. We know that it will change. We know that policy is going to change, right? So the deployment that worked before, because of a change in policy, maybe doesn't work anymore. And the point I want to make about that is that when policies actually do change, we have a central repo of all the templates that our company are using that we are collaborating on. That's a beautiful, everybody make heart with your hands, right? We collaborate on this together, and we can actually rerun and redeploy and test all the templates centrally. Yay! I freaking love that. So rather than putting your infrastructure template together with your source code, which is the suggested method by Azure Development, AZD, right? AZD suggests that you do that. You put your infrastructure templates together with your source code. This setup rather puts the templates in a shared central location so that you could try out new policy settings with the existing templates because all of them are in the same place. It's a beautiful story. Maybe it's not reality, but it's a beautiful story and I really like the approach. So before we leave here, what's next? So Dev Center is not available in all regions yet, so that's going to come. It's a great start. I just need more features. There's a private preview. I think it's still private preview for Bicep. You can use ARM templates, but there is a private preview for Bicep templates that I have access to, and that works. But it's not great yet. And Terraform might happen at some point. We'll see about that. And we need more services. There's only a few services in there that are supported by AZD right now. We need more of them, and so that it's less opinionated, right? So before I do my summary, before we close out, are there any questions?
I think the deployment environments looks pretty cool. I saw a talk on AZD, looked really, really good. I guess I wondered if you could talk to the pricing, because I'm looking here now and it says AZD is currently free, but runtime limit per month, per region, per subscription is 200 minutes.
Yeah.
With a runtime limit deployment of 10 minutes and storage limit of 1 gigabyte.
Yeah.
Not all of us have access to enterprise level Azure subscriptions.
I know.
So what does that mean for us?
It's a wonderful
200
question.
minutes is not much.
No, it's a wonderful question that I can't answer at all. But I applaud you for asking that question. I like that you're asking that question because this is something that everybody wants, right? So if we can't use the tool, then Microsoft need to figure out the price point. And I'm like looking over at the Microsoft employee who's sitting over there. I should talk to that person about that question. It is the best question that I don't have an answer to. Because that's not why I'm here. I don't work at Microsoft, but I'm here to talk about tech and how you should do it. Anyone can build this, right? Or use the service that Microsoft is building and pay for that. It's right? I don't know. This is possible to do, and I have built or parts of and tried to build this kind of system before Microsoft started building theirs, right? So it's a great question. We'll leave it there as a cliff note.
How is that compared to Pulumi?
So yeah, so you're a Pulumi user?
Yeah, we use Pulumi.
Yes.
There's similarities there.
Pulumi is not on the roadmap here, as far as I know. It probably might be here soon, or maybe they have it in the backlog somewhere, but it's not something that is prioritized in here right now. They are alluding to Terraform. They are supporting ARM templates, which is who cares? But the Bicep equals ARM, so and you can. They're actually building their own Bicep templates and transpiling them to ARM and then using them in the system right now as ARM templates. But Bicep is coming. Pulumi, I don't know. I can't answer that either. So sad that you're asking me questions I can't answer. But you're calling out some really good improvement points. So keep pointing that out to Microsoft, and they might prioritize Pulumi. Any final question? There's one over there. From the Microsoft person. Or are you going to answer the questions for us? You want to ask a question? Cool.
I love that. That was, and Azure Developer CLI is one of my favorite things.
Yeah, I know.
I hadn't seen the integration piece.
Okay.
So that is super awesome.
Yeah.
And I know the demo didn't quite work because it's in preview, and that's tough to get demos working.
It's all right. Yeah, it has worked. I have had it running.
But we keep, things change when it's
yes.
preview. But where did you get the stuff for people who want to go and actually?
Oh. Okay. Yeah.
Is that stuff that's available, or is that inside?
No. This is you have to be. It's not secret, because otherwise I couldn't be talking about it. It's public. You can read the blog post and there's documentation.
Is It's insiders.
It's insiders for some of this. I think the integration might be insiders. So separately, both of these things are released, but the connection between the two is still insiders. So I think you can get access to it. I think that there is a way to contact the team through the documentation, but it's early days, and I'm here to inspire about the technology as such, and inspire about the principle of doing this. Like I said to the gentleman who asked about the pricing, which is probably not even established yet, honestly, and it's probably not finalized, is that seriously, anyone could build this system, right? It's just an investment, prioritize, right? Yeah. I don't know if we have more time for questions, but let's do one more, and then we should probably start to round off.
Yeah. I just want to make a quick comment. So there is public samples for AZD plus AD.
Yes.
So the most important thing to call out there is that it's a configuration at the dev center level where you need to be able to open up that connection. It's not like samples are missing. Their samples are definitely there. It's a matter of you need to configure on the dev center side first, right? So just wanted to call that out.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. That's a good point. And that's why it's not as easy as pie to set it up right now. They're still baking the pie. So yeah. Good. Thank you for that. All right. So in summary, to recap, AZD up, AZD down. That's the funny recap. The real recap is development and test automation, right? Does it save a lot of consumption? Yes, it does. Is it a third of your consumption? Depends. But it's a lot of money. And that's your main driver. Not only the money for Azure consumption, also the money spent on you doing stuff, right? So if you can pay for and use the service, then you get away from that problem. Otherwise, you're going to have to invest some time and effort into creating a system that works like this, and probably still find that it's still worth it, because a third of your Azure consumption bill is a lot of money, right? And also no chasing ghosts in the cloud. And by that, I mean, you don't have environment drift. You don't have these issues, these problems anymore, because your environments, your deployments, your infrastructure setup, everything will always come from a known state, and you can set it up when you need it. It's going to be exact. You remove Dave. Sorry, I'm picking on the name Dave. That's maybe unfair. But you remove the human error factor from the equation. And it does require that investment that we have been talking about here. And that's really been the purpose of this talk for me, to inspire what can be done and what probably should be done, and what is maybe challenging to motivate the bean counters in your company to actually put effort behind. But it leads to a really, really, really beautiful place, right? So that was my talk. I want to thank you for coming very much. I appreciated this, and please stop me in the halls and talk to me at any time. Thank you.